Roadblocks with Josh Molina. It's such a pleasure today to be here with Ed St. George, who is one of my favorite guests to talk to, a developer, somebody very well known in the community, a volunteer. You do some philanthropy, as we know, Isla Vista on the east side. You've got your community centers. And I'm real excited to have a conversation with you today about a bunch of different topics. How you doing today, Ed?
I'm great. I'm great, Josh. Thanks.
Thank you. So let's dive right in. Let's talk about what really is the driving issue of the day, and it has been forever, and it continues to be housing, housing, housing. You are a developer, and you build housing. You own housing. You have rental housing, and this is something you're an expert in. We have state mandates. We have such a drive for more housing, specifically affordable housing, below market rate housing. This is such a topic of conversation. Let's talk. Where do you stand right now, Ed, on this affordable housing crisis? And what can we do? What can you do as a developer to help ease the crunch?
I think we need to look at where the housing crisis, it's the affordable housing that's actually driving, I think, a lot of the issues. It starts from the bottom up. It really does. In the United States, the average housing starts for a year is about 1.4 to 1.5 million. About a million of that, 900 to a million of those starts are usually single family residences. And then the remaining 500,000 are usually multifamily, 4 units or over. Right now, we're seeing an unprecedented amount of migration into the United States, the tune of about 2 to 2.5 million people a year. That has really put a lot of pressure on the building industry and municipalities in general. And so I think really what we really need to see is more affordable housing, more lower income being built. And there's a lot of complexities that go along with that. But I think Santa Barbara is in a very unique situation where we have space and we have a downtown that really desperately needs more people living down there. So we do have a great opportunity to address a lot of this housing and actually bring a lot of back our community. It's important. If somebody's working in Santa Barbara and they drive home to Ventura or they drive up to Santa Maria, there's not a whole lot of interest in the community. When you got cops and firefighters and teachers, or even our own city planners, most of our city planners don't live in Santa Barbara. If you can believe that, I mean, that to me is just completely absurd. How do you help plan a city that you don't even live in? But it's great to be able to have people at the end of the day when they get off to reconnect with the community on their own social basis. Coach soccer, coach baseball, whatever it may be, participate in PTA. So I think affordable housing is definitely important. And if we create more affordable housing, what that'll do is that'll ease the missing middle, as everybody talks about. So I've got some ideas. I think I've been pretty forthcoming with some of my ideas where I think it should go. So
you are somebody who provides a lot of housing in this community, and I remember that meeting at City Hall, I don't know, 4 years ago now. I think it was before the pandemic, where you had proposed this project over there by Santa Barbara City College. And so many of your employees came and talked and said, Ed is a great employer and, he provides housing, right? You house a lot of your employees. So can you talk about why you do that, how you do that? How are you able to do that when other developers don't? What's going on there?
Here's one of the issues. I do this because, one, it creates more of a family feel out on the field. You're working really hard, and at the end of the day, everybody, like they say, they kind of disperse, and there's no camaraderie. And what I was finding is I was training these carpenters, and they're having to commute 45 minutes to an hour. And as soon as they had the opportunity to get a job closer to home, and I didn't blame them, they would take that job. And so they could be closer to their family, closer to their community. And so what I started doing, and actually it started with group housing, because that's about all I could afford to put them in the beginning. But as my company became healthier and healthier, our construction crew is about 90% housed by my company. Our management crew, our management team, the lower management is probably only about 60 or 70%. Unfortunately, to my knowledge, I think myself and Cottage Hospital are the only people that do that, but we both do it for the same reason. It creates, the happier employees are, the better you can get work done, the more efficient it gets done. And that's what I have found. It's a bit of a sacrifice. There's no question about it. But I think it's brought my team a lot closer. I think I remember you were there actually. Some of those guys have been with me now for almost 35 years. I'd probably say at least half my crew's been with me for almost 20 years. So it's worked out. It's really paid off. I really wish the city and the state of California, honestly, would encourage more employers to house their employees. It's instead of the entire burden being on, on the municipalities, like I say, affordable housing, or the state. They do a great job, but I think the private sector could actually do a better job. And I think if there was incentives, like maybe a property tax incentive or, some sort of accelerated write-off, you would start to see more employers do that. And it would make for a more robust community too. We really want to keep the jobs here. And the traffic's just getting out of control. I mean, it really is. I mean, you look at the traffic going to Ventura at night, it's just completely, it's clogged up from Carrillo all the way down to the Ventura County line. So we've got to do something.
So, everybody talks about how we need housing. Like most people agree that we need more housing, more affordable housing, missing middle market, below market rate. But yet we're kind of stuck in that loop. It seems as though it takes a long time to build new housing. And so from a developer's perspective, what stops you? What are the issues? What are the challenges? And then I'm going to go into hotels in a second, but what are the roadblocks from you proposing housing, getting it approved and building it? What are the roadblocks?
Well, I would say the roadblock in the past has always been the permitting process. It's one of those situations where the goalpost just keeps getting moved. It's just constant. It's different with every single project. You've got Creeks Division that was created a few years ago, completely out of control. I mean, we're doing a small project. There probably isn't a creek within a quarter of a mile, and Creeks has more red line on my project than anything. I think there needs to be a top-down reboot for the planning department. I think the planning commission, it's kind of funny when Deborah ran the planning commission, I always called them, they were the adults in the room. They always made the most sense. I'm sad to say that since Deborah's been gone, I see them going outside their lane all the time now, all the time. It's just, look, just stay in what your purview is supposed to be. Let us do our job. You do your job. It's not like they're getting paid a lot of money to do what they're doing. They're volunteers, but I really think the planning department really needs to keep the planning commission in check. And same thing with the ABR. Sometimes the ABR gets completely out of control. Mm-hmm. And those are what really, it's not like the building department. Once you get in building, when you're in construction docs, things seem to go pretty smooth, quite honestly. But it's just getting to that point can take years and years and years. And a lot of people, they just don't have that staying power or the patience. And so that's why you see a lot of builders leaving town. Well, there's no builders left in town, quite honestly. There's like maybe small 2 or 3 of us.
There's a perception that developers are multi-millionaires twice over, have so much money. And so every time they propose something that is got a lot of market rate, people will say, oh, you just want to make more money. You don't want to propose things that people can live in. Like the developer gets sort of the villain character, cast on them. Can you talk just like real briefly, just a minute or so, a couple minutes, like how difficult it is to finance a housing project? Because I think a lot of people, when they hear somebody say they couldn't build housing because they couldn't get the density because it wouldn't pencil out, they hear that as, oh, the developer just wanted to make more money. Is that the case, or is it literally it makes no sense to build it?
It's extremely rare to have a project break even or make even a little bit of money right out of the gate. Extremely rare. The only reason I'm able to hang on the way I have, because I've been in this industry for so long, and now I'm kind of riding a wave. But generally speaking, it's anywhere between 3 to 7, maybe 8 years before a product will actually start breaking even. I don't think people really understand the soft cost, the carrying cost of a piece of real estate is enormous. And once again, if the planning process was much quicker, like I say, quit moving the goalposts, and then you'd start seeing a lot more building. I talked to Rob over in the housing. He's as frustrated as any other builder. I mean, they don't make any life any easier on them. He's building all affordable housing. Yeah. It's just the city needs to get out of their way. Like I said, there needs to be a top-down regeneration. It's really sad to say, because I like everybody I've ever met in the planning department. They're really nice people, and I don't think they really see what they're actually doing. But the process has gotten so complicated, Josh. And every single day, you got to pay interest, you got to pay property taxes, you got to pay insurance on this project. And so, yeah, I wish it was that case. But if that was the case, if everybody was making a ton of money, people would be building like crazy in this town. And you don't see that. Mm-hmm. You really don't. I mean, you see people, I buy projects all the time that people have walked from because they can't pencil. Permitted projects. It's like they finally get there, and the permit, that the plans that they actually went in with originally have been so changed by this committee and that committee and that committee, that now is a project that doesn't pencil anymore. And then they have to sell it because guess what? The bank won't lend to those people. Mm-hmm. And so it's unfortunate. It really is. But, the city has a lot of opportunities. I would really like to, I think you were the one that told me the other day that I guess they're now starting to finally look at the Paseo Nuevo as possible housing. Is that correct?
Yeah, at least 500 units. Something you had proposed on this show a little more than a year ago. 1,000 units. But yeah, they're talking about ways to build housing there now.
I think if they build anything less than 1,000, it would be a travesty. I can just tell you that as a builder and as a developer. Do you know what co-housing is?
No.
Co-housing it's something that I've been building a lot of it for a lot of years, but it's something that's really starting to get some legs. Co-housing, like for me, the perfect co-housing unit would be a 5-bedroom, 5-bath, nice sized kitchen, but everybody has an ensuite bathroom, so they have some privacy. It works great for younger people, young couples, single people. It works really, really great for seniors, especially if they've lost a spouse or they've, recently been through a divorce. A lot of seniors don't want to be in their 1-bedroom apartment or a 2-bedroom apartment. They want to be around other people. You could easily put 200 of these co-housing units in Paseo Nuevo, just between the Macy's building, the parking lot, and some of the downstairs units over there. And one of the things I want to remind the city about, or at least people might not know, is that the city owns the Paseo Nuevo. It's probably one of the most poorly run projects. I mean, the harbor's great. The city makes a ton of money off the harbor. It's run super efficient. Harbor looks beautiful, great tourist attraction. Um, the Paseo Nuevo, a lot of people don't realize this. The city gets $2 a year in leasing the Macy's and the Nordstroms and a lot of the other buildings. Um, that means it needs to be retro. It needs to be retrofitted desperately. We need the housing. Um, and can you imagine having 1,000 new people live downtown, walking their dogs, jogging, going to the gyms, going to the coffee shops, just the vitality that the downtown would actually achieve by just having just that one project. And then that would encourage other people to start building projects as well. So we have opportunities. We just need to open our eyes to it. We really do.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking about demolishing it, but it's the city owns the land, but the lease of the actual mall is now owned by this investment firm that seized it after Paseo Nuevo owners defaulted. And now this New York investment firm is partnering with this Georgetown company, these developers. And so it's these three components, the city, Georgetown, the investment firm, and they're going to build. The city's not going to get any more rent at all. But what Rebecca Bjork had said was, our payment is a more vibrant downtown. We're creating a community, and then people will shop and all of that. But they're working on all those details. But if it's up to them, they're going to knock down Paseo Nuevo and build something else. And this does include the Macy's building, does not include the Nordstrom building. That's apparently a separate owner. They may or may not try to bring them into the fold. So that's sort of the general plan. I wanted to ask you, Ed.
Well, can I touch on that for a second?
Yeah.
I can just tell you this right now. The only way possible something like that's going to happen is if the city extends the amount of years on that lease, because there aren't enough years left on that lease for any investor, unless you're a philanthropist and you just want to throw your money and don't care about losing it. No investor in their right mind will go in with the amount of years left that are on that lease. Rebecca was right. The reason the city was charging so little rent, they were looking for a vibrant downtown. If you really want to get a vibrant downtown, put 1,000 people in there. Have those 1,000 people living downtown. That's going to be CPR right to the downtown. And like I said, everybody else is just going to follow in suit. I hope that the city does not extend that lease and looks at the housing opportunity that they have sitting right in front of them. I mean, who doesn't want to live downtown? I mean, if you're a senior, you want to live downtown. You're walking distance to the beach. You got all the cafes. You got the parks. Your friends are going to want to come visit you. If you're young, you want to be downtown. And this could all be affordable housing. I mean, it really could. SB 35, which is in the state of California right now, there's tons of money available through the state, through the federal government. Julie McGeever over at Hockhauser and Blatter, I mean, she could run that project with her eyes closed, get all the funding necessary, literally put 1,000 people down there. So I really hope that this isn't given from another out-of-town developer. I really hope that the Planning Commission and the City Council does not extend that lease. And I really, really hope that turns into a beautiful housing project because that would affect a lot of people's lives. It really would in a very positive way. And I mean the business owners as well.
Yeah. Well, I know they're working fast on this. They're trying to get it done before Rebecca Bjork leaves in January, at least the plan to move ahead. Obviously not the whole thing, will take a couple of years at least. Ed, I want to stay on track here and cover a couple more things. No, that's, I'm kind of asking a lot of questions here. But I wanted to ask you about the Cumbre Plaza, right? So we know about Paseo Nuevo. Cumbre Plaza has also got its own issues. And there's this proposal to, build like 1,500 units or something, out there. It's a lot, and go high. I think they want to go almost, 74 feet or something. Those are local developers, the Taylor family. They want to do that. But what's your take on La Cumbre Plaza, and where should we be headed as a city with that development?
Well, I think they're going to have some CEQA issues. It's State and La Cumbre is the most impacted intersection in the city of Santa Barbara. Um, Everybody knows the off-ramp going on to Hitchcock is extremely abbreviated. It can't hold any more traffic. It's already backing up into the 101. So the Caltrans is going to have something to say about that CEQA. I think one of the other issues is that I take issue with on that project. Um, it's not close to anything. If you're going to live over there, you're literally going to have to get in your car. You want to go to the beach, get in your car and drive. You want to take your kids to high school, get in your car and drive. Junior high, get in your car and drive. You want to go to a restaurant, unless you're going to eat right around there, like really locally. But that's not why you moved to Santa Barbara. The amount of traffic that project will end up creating, in my opinion, is, we'll put it this way. When they first rezoned that, I took 3 council members over there. It was Eric, Megan, and Kristen. And I said, look, this planning has made a huge mistake. You can put this much housing over on this project. This area cannot hold it. I mean, if we were all flying around in drones, that'd be one thing, but we're still driving cars. And so that area will be completely decimated. It'll be, the traffic around there will be so untenable. A lot of people won't want to live there. I personally, I mean, I feel bad saying this about another builder in town. They're probably cussing me out right now as I'm saying this, but it really is the truth. 1,500 homes over there is going to take the whole Upper State Street area, and you're not going to be able to get home. You're always going to be stuck in traffic. I know we need housing, and the state counts units. The state counts units in a lot of ways. I mean, I personally would love to see a school again over there. I mean, you could build, let's say Westmont, they want to open another campus. Westmont's the #1 Christian college in the United States. Let's just say, for instance, I know it's a little out of the box. Westmont puts a campus over there. They put in 1,000 dorm rooms. Well, state of California, boom, counts that as 1,000 units. So city gets credit for that. But guess what? The students don't leave. Like my Beach City project I put in, the closer you can put the housing to the school, the less these kids will have to drive. So I think there's other alternatives, but I do think they're going to have some really difficult times with CEQA and Caltrans. I really do.
And in some ways, these two developments are competing with each other, right? I think the question is, where do you want the energy of Santa Barbara to be? Do you want it to be downtown? Do you want to be the Cumbre Plaza? Could it be both? It feels as though there's a little bit of competition going on. We know with retail, right? Paseo, the Cumbre, where you're going to go shopping. That's an issue. I do all my shopping in Ventura at the Collection in Oxnard, by the way. So I don't go to either one anymore because I guess I can go to Macy's, but it's a little expensive for me.
But you're so right. A lot of people didn't grow up in this town. I remember when State Street was super vibrant. And then all of a sudden, when I was about 9 or 10 years old, we used to ride our bikes to State Street. We'd see all our friends down there, our friends' parents. And I think I was about 10 or 11 years old, La Cumbre Plaza opened and State Street died, like overnight, completely died. We're like kind of like an island here in Santa Barbara. You know, you've got the whole Rincon down to Ventura, and you've got all that farmland up to Santa Maria. So it's not like people come here to shop. And so the reason they built the Paseo Nuevo is because the downtown had completely died. And so it was considered a blighted area. That's how they got the money to build the Paseo Nuevo. And now what they want to do is it's like this ping pong game. Like what you just brought up right now is a really, really good point. If you put all the shopping back up on the Upper State Street, that's where everybody's going to shop again. But worse, you really need to look at it this way. Tourists don't come to Santa Barbara to shop. Tourists come to Santa Barbara to walk along the beach, walk out on the pier, walk by the harbor, see the Mission, walk up State Street, Lower State Street. Lower State Street, nobody goes on there. I mean, I have hotel guests. We just had one today, in fact. She had a 3-day reservation. And she just went up to the desk. The only reason I know about this is because they called me and asked if she could get out of the 2 days. People come here, they'll reserve a room because they remember Santa Barbara the way it used to be. And also often we get people goes like, no, we've had a change of plans. We're just gonna leave. Can we get a refund? And I get so tired of hearing that. And I know exactly why it's happening. I mean, we all do. Santa Barbara is not what it used to be. And we really need to revitalize our downtown. It's essential. It's a beautiful little downtown. And the only way to revitalize is put a bunch of people down there, put locals, because tourists want to hang out with locals. I mean, the locals don't hang out downtown anymore for obvious reasons.
Mhm.
So I'm a big advocate for putting the housing downtown. Once I said, if you imagine living in the Paseo Nuevo, imagine yourself living there. It's like you can run down to the beach. If your daughter goes to the junior high, she can ride her bike over to Santa Barbara Junior High or walk over there super easy. Your kid goes to the high school. I know he just graduated, but it's like he could walk over to high school super easy. There's surfing down there, the skate parks down there, everything's down there. I mean, you tell me where you want to live. You want to live at La Cumbre Plaza or you want to live at the Paseo Nuevo?
Yeah, downtown is much closer. Of course, I live out by IB, so I'm like 10 minutes from the beach as it is. So I'm pretty cool where I live for sure.
Yeah, but now you oh, go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm I'm in the middle stages of my life, but when you're first starting out, it's a different kind of thing you want.
That was
I want just a couple more questions and I'll let you go. I know you're very busy. This hotel conversation, I've been covering these planning commission meetings and these developers are coming forward with hotels and the planning commission's just like, no, 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 we don't want more low paying jobs. We want housing, try to build housing or build housing for your employees. If a developer, the latest one is this, Jim Cannell wants to build, SEMA wants to build a hotel down there and the planning commission is not really happy about it. What is your take on why would a developer even want to build a hotel if housing is so lucrative? Like, what's your take on that housing versus hotels clash?
Well, once again, like I said, housing is not as lucrative as people think it is. It is in the long term. It's just like the stock market. But honestly, the regulations just from the state, but moreover, the city just keeps putting on more and more and more and more regulations on housing providers. I mean, it's just untenable. I mean, it really is. Who wants to build housing in Santa Barbara anymore? I don't know anybody that does. If they, if they repeal the Ellis Act right now, at least if you build a new building, you have 15 years of being able to put your rent to market. But the state right now is trying to get rid of that. And if they get rid of that, it's going to stop construction completely. I mean, right now on the West Coast, multifamily housing in the state of California is down 29%, 29.8%. And it's obvious why it is. I mean, we have statewide rent control. You have all these onerous regulations on housing providers, and who's going to build it? I don't want to build housing anymore.
Well, Ed, we're going to wrap up. I appreciate your time. Great conversation, talking about all these issues and hearing from your perspective, developers' perspective. And thanks again. We'll do it again soon. Have a good day.
All right, Josh. Take care, brother.
Take care.
See you.